Hello world, it's me again. It's the Don, the Senator Smooth and Rude, coming to you live from the 75Y, cause we global, baby, yeah. This is the Mansion in the Sky podcast where we build the lamb, as in Lamborghini, while we drive it. Every day we strive to become envious, which is unconquerable and influential in every area of your life. Our focus here at the Mansion is to learn lessons from current events, either global or local, and apply it, while staying in the mix about technology, health, and everything in between in a cold, calculated, and ever so changing world. So, latest, welcome home. All right. This episode is a very, very, very special episode to me. Why is that? Because I've been on a 2 year hiatus from creating and putting out shows and things of that nature. So, today, as a result of this being the genesis, the beginning, the conception of the Mansion in the Sky podcast, this episode is going to be all VA, Virginia. Is in Virginia is for lovers. So, I'm going to give you a breakdown of the show and things to come and to expect. All right. Hopefully, everybody out there is doing good, doing great, feeling good, feeling great. Because I definitely am. I'm so excited to be back here. Another thing that this episode is going to be about paying homage. Everyone has a beginning, an origin story, and no one did it by themselves. Even the most outcastic, if that's even a word, the most outcastic person, the hermits, all of those people who do virtually everything by themselves, no one's done anything by themselves. Everyone has had help. So as a result of this being first episode back, creating, doing my thing, I'm going to pay homage to all the people who helped me along the way and helped me get to this point as far as media, content creation is concerned, and things of that nature. And I believe that paying homage is important. Like, the way that I was raised was for birthdays, Christmas, and whenever I got a gift or anything of that nature, mom was always like, you got to write a note. I don't know if people write notes anymore or letters or anything like that. But every time I received anything, I always had to write a thank you note. Every single time. All right, so the show is going to go something like this. And this is what you can expect for every single show from here on out. First things first is we're going to conjure the spirits, get us in the spirit to receive this message. After that, then we have the hater's prayer. Then the word of the day, because this is edutainment. Then we have Donisms, the isms that are the Donisms. Then we have the main topics. And like I said, this show is going to be everything VA and paying homage. So we're going to talk about where the phrase Virginia is for lovers started and originated. And we're going to do a deep dive on the history. Then after that, we're going to give you 18 signs that you are or may be a true Virginian. Then after that, we're going to talk about Virginia goes all in on a passenger rail. And then we're going to talk about, lastly, we're going to talk about the two people who died at the Norfolk shipyard, which happened a couple weeks ago. So before we even get into anything, let's quiet our spirits and conjure the spirits.
This ain't for broke boys.
Ooh, Lord.
The hater's prayer. I stand here and I pray that no weapons formed against you shall prosper. I didn't say that the weapons wouldn't form, but that they don't prosper. I pray that any man, woman, boy, or girl, any entity large or small, fails in any and every attempt to overthrow you. I stand here to say that all is well, my good people, and that you will enjoy the fruits of your labor. Understand that haters are nothing more than confused admirers. And like the great Cat Williams said, if you have one hater, you need two. And if you have two, you need four. So in closing, I humbly offer you the right arm of the Fresh Prince. Sometimes the right arm of the Fresh Prince is necessary to let them know you're not the one. That is the hater's prayer. All right. Word of the day, Genesis. I picked this word because this is the Genesis episode. Genesis, a noun. The origin of coming into being of something. Second definition of Genesis, the mainly narrative first book of Jewish and Christian scriptures. I'm going to torture a lot of words uh, doing this podcast, this experience, because this is an experience. All right. Did you know the traditional Greek name for the first and best known book of the Bible is Genesis, meaning origin? Genesis tells the stories of the creation, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah's Ark, the Tower of Babel, Abraham and his sons, and more. The stories that explain how the world and humanity were created, as well as much about humanity and especially the descendants of Abraham, relate to the rest of the world. Today we use Genesis to refer to the creative beginnings, which this is, of much smaller things, but never unimportant ones. All right, some synonyms for the word Genesis. Alpha, birth, day one, inception, kickoff, nascence, outset, baseline, commencement, get go, launch, start, beginning, dawn, get go, morning, onset, threshold. And examples of Genesis in a sentence. A book about the genesis of the civil rights movement was present at the meeting, which was later considered the genesis of the new political movement. All of these details can help the provider more quickly suss out the genesis. So the word Genesis is the word of the day. So let's get into these Donisms. Like I said, since this being first episode back, I found it extremely necessary and important, at least to me and to everything that I'm getting ready to do and the journey and the mission that I'm getting ready to embark on. I feel it necessary to pay homage to the people who helped me to this point. Because without these people, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing, and I greatly appreciate them. I mean, this for the better part of the last 10 years is what I've really wanted to do. It's it's been something that really resonated with me, and I'm extremely grateful for these people. And I believe that this list is in numerical order. So, mom, without without elaborating too much on mom, she's definitely one of my greatest influences, greatest inspirations. I definitely inherited a winning jewel with my mom. I mean, I've seen her be that lady for my entire life. A lot of people say, "Oh, my mom is my hero. My parents are my hero." And I think that a lot of people just say that just because, your mother's love is next to none. You can't replicate that. You can't duplicate your mother's love. But without her, I wouldn't even be here. Number one. So let's start that. But number two, I mean, without her, I would have never have gotten in the band. I would have never done marching band. I would have never gotten all the way up to the point where I was in college at Hampton University. Excuse me. And my fifth year, instead of marching, but I still wanted to be a part of the band, decided to be the announcer of the band, which gained me a little bit of notoriety and led me to want to go into media like this, radio, essentially, which I'm gonna get to. So I'm forever grateful for my mom because she always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself for a long, long, long time. She always believed, no matter what. She always supports, still supports. She tells me no when I need to be told no. She tell me yeah when I need to be told yeah. She tells me the right things. Like one thing I'll never forget. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'll never forget about her. But everyone can't sit in your front row. You have to be careful of the people that you allow in your front row. You got to think about it like this. Stage is set. You're on the stage, center stage, microphone in your hand, PA speakers hanging up in the rafters from the ceiling, acoustics on point, and you have thousands of chairs in your audience. Who's going to be in that front row right there looking up at you? Everyone can't sit in your front row. I mean, there are even people who mean good and mean well, but if they don't benefit the LLC of you, they can't sit in your front row. They might be able to sit in the back row in your auditorium, so they made it in the building, but they can't sit in the front row. So that's mom. I can talk about her all day. Next, the grand architect. Without the grand architect, whether it be Buddha, whether it be Jesus, whether it be whatever you believe in, the grand architect for making this whole existence exist. Without him, her, zim, zer, this is not possible. The relationship I have with the grand architect is you get what you get out of it, what you put in. I'll match you. You bring $10, I'll bring 10. And I might even bring 15. You put in 20, I give you I'll bring 25. But if I don't match the energy, if I don't do the work, then I don't reciprocate nada, Nathan, nothing. And that's how the grand architect has always worked in my life. And he's also spoken to me through other people. One example, way back in the day when I was about 16, 17, still a teenager, I might have even been in college. I don't really remember the time period, but I was still a teen. And anyways, this lady, Deacon Washington, at my church that I grew up in Richmond, she was at a Bible study. And at the end of that Bible study, they always prayed out. They prayed in, they prayed out. And so they're holding hands, head bowed, and someone else is praying, her head's bowed, eyes closed. And Grand Architect, God, whatever you want to call him, hers, him, zer, sent a vision of me hanging myself to her. So she calls me that day, and I don't know what I was doing, where I was, whatever the case is. Leaves a message. Next day, I get home. Mom is like, hey, Deacon Washington called you, left a message, call her. So I call her. She tells me this. And mind you, she's a close family friend. So there's no reason for her to cap. There's no reason for her to cap. And I've always kept that with myself throughout the years. Because I don't think that it was intended for me to look out for a tree with a rope with my neck in it. But I believe that it was intended for, hey, going back to what I just said with mom, everybody can't sit in your front row. Be careful who you have around you. Be careful of what you do. Be careful of what you participate in. Just pay attention. Be careful. So I always take that with me. All right. Moving along. So I went to Hampton University. I did everything there except have a menage a trois and graduate. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who wasted the time. But it wasn't wasted because a lot of those people I am still cool with to this day. And those are my lifetime friends, my brothers, my sisters, family. I love them to death. And so going back to what I was saying about being in the band, my 5th year there, I was an announcer for the band. So once the season ended, because I didn't do any basketball games, I just did football games. But once the season ended and we got into the summer, excuse me, so fast forward past football season, past the spring, and then to the summer, started working. So I'm like, all right, well, I want to kind of parlay the music and that announcer thing into something else. So I work. I worked for about a year, and then I find myself in a boarding house at the back gate of Hampton University, which is pretty much on the campus. So I'm like, all right, well, what's next? So one day I see this guy that I was introduced to by Darius Jackson, who's also from Richmond. He introduced me to Kevin and Moose Anderson, who, ironically enough, is from Richmond as well. And he worked at WHOV 88.1, Hampton University Jazz Station. And I see him, I'm like, Moose, hey, bro, like, hey, I'll do anything to work in the radio station, man. Like, I will clean the floors, I'll do whatever. I don't care, bro. Like, I ain't got too much going on right now, and I need something. So he was like, okay, um, I'll get back with you in a week or something like that. Email me. So I emailed him. I don't think he emailed me back. But then 2 weeks later, I see him walking by my place again. And I'm like, Moose, man, like, I'm still trying to get on. What's going on? Help a brother. So he's like, all right, come by the station on Monday. So come by the station, and I end up working there for about a year after that. So working there, I ended up producing 3 live shows. Now, maybe out of the whole year I worked, maybe 1 week I produced all 3 of these live shows in a week. But most of the time I was doing 2 live shows a week. Now these shows were on Monday. It was Build a Better Life with Edith White at 12 to 1. Um, the Will Levis Show, or yeah, Levis, not Levis. That's the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. The Will Levis Show on Wednesday. And then my favorite show and the show that I did the most work on, It's the Law with Professor Joy. And then on Fridays I would sit in and watch shoot, I forget the name of that show, but it was Dr. Al, and they talked about holistic healing practices and modalities and medicines and things of that nature, and with his assistant. And they had various shops around Hampton Roads area, and they were cool, and their show was entertaining, and people always called in, and those people were tripping. I mean, people called in on all these shows. So while I was producing these shows, I would pick up the phone. Hey, what's going on? Hold up, hold on, click, and then switch them over so everybody could hear them in the headphones and talk and interact. And I'm talking about people all around the region are listening to this. Like, this was a big deal. This was a big deal. And radio stations, they run off of advertisement. So that's how they're making their money. Like, it's crazy because you'll be driving around 757 and you'll see Jay Lang. He was the station manager. Jay Lang, you see his face on bus all around Hampton Roads, like Virginia Beach, Norfolk. I don't know if I ever seen around Chesapeake or Portsmouth, but I'm sure those. Hampton, for sure. Definitely Hampton. Newport News. And then Williamsburg. That Williamsburg is it's still seven cities, but Williamsburg is its own thing in a sense. But that's what I was doing working at that radio station, producing those shows, and then whenever we had guests, then I would be the the medium between. No, I wouldn't even be the medium. I just would just be an assistant. Honestly, that's really what it was. Now it was. Oh yeah, I do. I want to say this though. I'm forever grateful for WHOV 88.1, Hampton University Jazz Station, and Kevin and Moose Anderson, because without that, I 100% think and agree and believe that I wouldn't even be sitting here paying homage. I'd probably be doing something totally different. Who knows? Maybe driving trucks or something like that. But I'm grateful because Moose gave me an opportunity. Like, I was out of school already, um, older than the people working in the station, and I mean we were cool. Like, Moose, he gave me drums and stuff like that, like some drums from some old school uh, jazz and soul music, and it was like, hey man, I know you made beats and stuff like that. Do something with it. And also, like, he would let me listen to his I forget what the show was called, where he illegal hip hop radio, and he would do it with I believe the guy's name was Wiz. Kevin Moose Anderson and the Wiz would do illegal rap radio, where they would talk about all the samples that these hip hop songs would use, and they would just go in. They would go in for about a good 40, 50 to an hour, and it was fire. It was really fire. It was good, man. Like, sometimes they would have some of these original artists come on the show and talk about it, and I think and believe that if they were still doing that in this day and time, they would be big. Just the way that they were talking about it, man. It was amazing, man. Like, they would always be talking about, like, the fourth stream of jazz, and the way that these roads, because roads are keys, and the way that the roads just sat in there on top of the bass, and all the counterpoints with the bass and how the harmony meshed with it, and how the vocals just intertwined and interweaved in it. And now we see how Kanye West, or we see why Kanye West was inspired to sample this part of this song right here. It's crazy, like just the way that they were talking about these old school records and these new school records. It was inspirational for real. It was motivational, man. It really opened your mind up and made you wanna do something like that. I mean, I didn't want to take that and do that, but it made me want to say, you know what? Let me go and grab my own and talk about it the way that these guys are talking about it. Cause it was so interesting, man. It really was, and it was entertaining, and it was just so well done. And Moose is just a cool guy, man. Moose is somebody that I definitely looked up to, man. Like whether he showed it or not, man, he was always cool, calm, and didn't let too much get to him. And I'm grateful that he gave me the opportunity to do my thing. Watch me do my thing. Everybody say. So how I parlayed WHOV 88.1 into another opportunity. I was producing the show Build a Better Life with Edith White. She was this one particular day she was interviewing this guy named Jacoby Dubier, and he was out of Portsmouth. No, was it Portsmouth? Suffolk. There you go. He was out of Suffolk, and he was promoting his Black Men's Rock Award show, which I ended up getting an award for like the next year. And anyways, so he comes in there and Edith is doing something, not ready for the show yet. She always prepared, did her own thing, whatever, whatever. So I go into the waiting area and I just say, hey, Jacoby, like, we're getting ready for the show. We're setting up. Just stay out here until we're ready. I'll come get you. Is there anything you need? He was like, no, it's nothing I need, but thank you so much. And anyways, show goes smooth. It's cool. And off of that, me just doing my job, kind gesture, being the senator smooth and not rude this time. He was like, "Hey man, I like how you treated us or treated me. Um, hey man, I have a fashion show going on in Suffolk. Come check me out on a Saturday. I got some people that I want you to meet." So I was like, "All right, cool." So I pull up and they're doing their fashion show at this hotel. And that's when I meet Nicole Slade, aka Miss Bling Bling. Money ain't a thing. Lee Savage, Miss Peaches, LJ, Talina, the whole trend. And that was really like the beginning of what this is right now. Now, yeah. So we hit it off. It was cool. And basically that was the link up, that was the network right there. Because they were kind of looking for another host, someone who could kind of come in and give it a little bit, give it something else. And I was looking for the same thing. I was looking for something to do that was creative. So it all worked out. So we started recording every Sunday in Hampton at Rockstar Entertainment, Famous Radio Live. And this is when I first got wind of online radio and where everything was going and how podcasts started to like really become the thing. And this was 2017, I want to say. This was like 2017, 2018 ish time. So this was before TikTok was really big. Shorts, reels, short form content wasn't. I mean, we had Vine and things like that, and we did have short form content, but it wasn't massive like how it is. Like we had podcasts, but it wasn't like what it is now. Like we didn't have two presidential candidates instead of trying to go to Fox News or CBS or wherever, they going to Joe Rogan, Shannon Sharp, Theo Vaughn. This was before that. So, anyways, link up with the trend. Famous Radio Live. Shout out to Prince Hakeem. He was the one who was renting out the space, and he was the one who had owned the equipment, owned the studio, everything like that. So he provided the opportunity. Miss Nicole Slade, the whole Trent family, they were the ones who brought me in like family. I'm forever grateful. I just came in, I did my thing. I had a segment called On It Off It, and I just asked questions that was gonna bust it loose. Honestly, I asked whatever I want to ask without cussing, of course. But yeah. So dealing with that show, Selena at first, she was the one working the board, so no, actually she was still doing working the boards on that show. As far as like microphones and things like that, but Prince Hakeem was the one who was actually producing and editing the show after we were done with it, because we would record and then leave and then he would work on it. So I came to him one day, I was like, hey, look, bro, I know how to do all of this stuff. I can learn this software really quickly, well enough to be able to make it do what it need to do, and then that'll take a load off you. So he's like, all right, cool. Miss Bling was like, that's fine too. And from there, I just started going crazy. I started adding our music to it. Like, well, not our music, but, well, I did add my music. But, like, when we had musical guests, I would add their music to the show, like, in between segments and things like that. And anything that we wanted, I would just add it. And that was that. So, it made it more our thing, because Prince would just put whatever up there and just put it out and then go on about his business. And that was fine. But I would ask every week, like, what y'all want? What songs do y'all want? And they would send me a list. And I would just add as many of them as I could. Now, I saw where this could go back in 2016, 2017. I saw the chemistry. I saw how the potential. I saw just what it could be before the podcast thing took off, like how it is now. Because at the time, there weren't that many people who were recording their podcasts, especially in the 757. There were not that many people who were actually recording their podcasts, like high quality, putting them on YouTube in an organized fashion and popping off. And I was like, because my friend at the time, Bronze Kevin, he was staying with me in Norfolk, and he would work the cameras for me. And I was like, yo, just record this, and I'll put it together. Because at first, I just had the camera on the tripod, and I was like, that's not good enough. I need like cameraman in here, like the Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club was the main ones doing that, and that's where I got that idea from. I was like, if they can do it, we can do it, because we better than them. But to reiterate, people were not recording their podcasts. Like regular, degular, schmegular people were not recording themselves doing extraordinary things in an organized way. They just weren't. Not like that. Not like how they are now. But we were doing that back in 2016. So only imagine if we would have kept doing it 8 years later, we would have had a nice little bag off that. But that's neither here nor there. So all good things come to an end. But before the trend came to an end, I met another gentleman named Mike DeMont. So the trend, they were always doing fashion shows. I met them at a fashion show. And I was always like, how do I get in on one of these fashion shows? You guys are always doing fashion shows. I want to get in on one. So eventually, they let me get in on one. So I go to this fashion show. I see this guy named Mike DeMont, and I believe he was in a all Gucci suit or something like that. It's like some designer, but it was fly. It was dope because I've always been in fashion and things like that. Especially after my brother told me, I asked my brother one day. I was like, "Man, how do you get so fly?" And he's like, "Man, I dress like art." And I don't know what happened with my brain that day, but it just clicked. It just made sense. Dress like art. Yeah, just dress like art. I was like, okay. It makes sense to me. But yeah, so I met this brother at Mike DeMont. He was clean. I was like, bro, you clean. And he's like, thank you. I was like, hey man, here's a business card. Cause I was really big on networking at that time, and that's when people still had their business cards out and were putting them out. And I had a big stack of them, like at least 200. There's a lot of people in this world who have my business cards. And anyways, I was like, hey man, here's my business card. Um, Man, let's link. And also at that time, I was trying to figure out a way on how to network with people who weren't in the music world. Like I was trying to figure out a way to bring it all together. And once again, this was before you were seeing all these podcasts pop up where they were interviewing all these people. So I was trying to figure it out. Anyway, so he hits me up. He's like, yo, what's up? Let's link. I'm like, hey, come on the trend. Let's interview you. So he comes on the trend, interview goes well. I'm like, all right, bro. Okay, I see you. Mike DeMont, the dancing savant. That's not bad. That's not bad. So I was like, all right, hit me up and let's see what else we could figure out. So he hits me up one time. I'm like, I ain't really got nothing for you. He hits me up again. I'm like, still ain't got nothing for you. He hits me up one more time. I'm like, shoot, I can't keep turning down opportunities, man. Like, I can't keep saying I don't have anything for people when all I got to do is think because it's not illegal yet. And I have all these cameras at the house. So I was like, all right, let's do this. We're going to make a podcast. Because I've been wanting to make a podcast. That was how I was going to pull it all together and be able to network with these people who might have been painters, might have been graffiti artists, might have been guys who they make shoes, might have been guys who make logos, anybody. So we came up with D&D Podcast. And we didn't put out that many episodes, but I can say that's my brother. That's my brother. We just had the chemistry. It just worked. Bro can sing. He can dance. He makes logos. He makes t-shirts. Very cool guy. It just worked. We fit like a glove. And I just want to say I'm grateful for Mike DeMont, the dancer savant, Mr. So Serious, for believing in me, especially in a time when I didn't believe in myself. I did not believe in myself at all. Like I was on the way to believing in myself, but I didn't. And he just took a chance on my creativity. And as much as I complained, I'm grateful because I definitely complained. But I'm grateful. I really am because you took a chance on me and it started to do something. Like I said, even though we didn't put out as many episodes as we should have and could have, it did something. People outside of social media in the real world were coming up to me saying lines like, "I wanna I wanna watch Hulu and do you in Norfolk on Norview." They were reciting our lines. They were watching this. They were watching the advertisement. They weren't watching the podcast, but they were watching the advertisement that we were putting out on social media, and that was doing something. So I'm grateful for Mike DeMont. I am. He believed in me. He believed in me. Now at the end, it got to be too much work and too much driving, but that's still my boy. Too much. But that was D&D podcast, and I'm grateful that that happened. That was a great learning experience. Mellow Fresh. I've known Mellow Fresh 10 plus years. Met him at HU. It's another person who I don't know why, but always believed in me. Mellow Fresh has been a beacon of hope for me. Now, I don't believe in hope, and I don't think that hope is a strategy. Shout out to Coach Greg. He's the next one on this list. But Mellow Fresh has always been a model of consistency for me. He's always gone up. His trajectory has always gone up. And for whatever reason, he's always believed in me. He's always said, "You're going to be all right. You're going to be good." And of course, you got to put in the work, but you're going to be all right. You got it. And for that, I'm always going to be grateful for Mellow Fresh. Not only is that my brother in creativity, but that's my brother in real life. I love him to death, and I admire him. And I know a lot of people are afraid to say that they admire people or have admiration for people, but I have admiration for that brother. I admire what he has done. I admire his story. And his story is one that is not common in Hollywood. So, for that, I'm forever grateful for Mellow Fresh, who still helps me with my music and still helps me in anything that I ask him for and gives me an honest take on it. He don't care. He's not some guy from the streets. He's just a extraordinary person who goes hard. He go hard in the paint. I appreciate Mellow Fresh for everything that he's done for me. And I don't even know if I've done that much for him. But he's given me something that I couldn't give back to him. And I'm extremely grateful for that. Coach Greg Adams. Coach Greg Adams is like the pops that I wish I could have had, or the uncle that I wish I could have had. He's taught me so much, from how to deal with women. He's kicked my ass so many damn times, saying, "Man, if you broke, you don't need to be dating. You don't need to be dealing with women. You need to be in monk mode, getting your ish together." He's given me way more than I could ever give him. Without Coach Greg, I wouldn't have had an inkling to know that this was even possible to even set this up. Camera, lights, mixing board, mic table, sitting here, speaking, on my way to 1 million subs, on my purpose and my journey. Coach Greg is the one who was like, purpose first, everything second. Get on your purpose, get you some money, and everything else will come. Money first, everything after. Coach gave me the courage to believe that it's life after making mistakes. It's life after even wasting your time. It's life after having failed relationships. Because life is about relationships. I messed up a lot of relationships. I have. Whether blatant or not on purpose. But I messed up a lot. But not only has he made it okay, he's provided answers and ways and solutions for brothers who may or may not want to have a family or just aren't ready for that. Because I see a lot of women online talking about, well, if the guy is over 30 and he's single with no kids, red flag. How's that a red flag? Why would you want to have kids with someone who doesn't have their finances right? Isn't as disciplined as he could be, needs to be, and is on his way to being, and may or may not have the facilities to even have some kids in. I don't want my kids living in a dumpster. I'd rather take this route. If I was going to have kids already, I would have been had them a long time ago. Yeah, I'm not saying no to kids. Never say no. But I'm saying, why not get your stuff together first and then go have the kids? You just having kids out of like, love, and lust, but you can't take care of them. Don't the kids deserve to start on a solid foundation too? And Coach Greg Adams has helped me in so many ways. And that's why I live the free agent lifestyle. Thought Crimes. I got that mug back there. Thought Crimes. Right here. I love Thought Crimes. I've been listening to them since 2016. And they're everything hip hop, politics, dark humor, unique intelligence. I love Thought Crimes. They're so funny. Prince Solomon, Sincere Ignorance, and Be More. They speak about everything. Astrology, numerology, everything. In such a and it has so much depth to it. And I believe we're around the same age too, but just where they are, it's amazing. And I look up to them. I respect them. I would love to debate them one day. Or just ask them a question on something I don't agree with. Just one day. I know I'm gonna get cooked, but I would be proud to be cooked by Thought Crimes. But no, I seriously, seriously, seriously love Thought Crimes. I don't want to get cooked by them because they're gonna go in. But I really love Thought Crimes. They have inspired me so much to keep going with hip hop, music, entertainment, They've showed me, taught me so many different things about the industry, about how people move, whether in good faith or in bad faith. Just so much. It's so much that I can't even remember, or I can't even put it into words right now. But I just know. I just know how to move. And they're a big part of it. It's been these two content creators who have given me so much, and I'm forever grateful. And I'm subscribed, and I pay them every month because they're necessary to me. And then there are some other YouTube content creators out there like Coach Corey Wayne, Tommy Sotomayor. I first heard about or found Tommy Sotomayor back in 2016. I think it was. I think it was 2016 or 2016. I was living with this woman. Man, never again. She had 3 kids, man. And she was living with her sister, her sister's husband, and her sister's husband sister. It's crazy. And it was like 12 kids in that house, man. 12 kids, 4 adults. And I don't got any kids. I'm dealing with someone that got kids. It don't make no sense. But anyway, so long story short, that house ends up getting foreclosed. So they all leave. Everybody goes back to North Carolina except her and me. So we end up getting an apartment like around September. I lasted 3 months in that house. And mid-November, I was getting tired of it. I was tired of it. I was sick of her ass. So I was like, all right, man, I need some solutions on how to like get rid of this or get done with this situation. And none of the old folks around me was giving me any solutions. They was just like, oh, just be careful and watch out. I'm like, man, that's not what I need to hear. Now, some of the people that I was working with, they was like, man, you just need to leave. You just need to leave. But it wasn't registering at the time. So anyway, I went online. I was like, all right, man, I forget what I typed in, but I typed something in, Tommy Sotomayor came up. And he was basically like, leave, man. Get up out of there. So I remember one day, it was like December 1st. I came home, and my girl at the time, my ex, whatever, her sister's husband, and all her kids was in the room. Nah, she only had one kid with her. They was all sitting in the room watching TV. And I already got it made up in my head. I'm leaving. I don't care about this lease. I don't care about the credit. I'm out. I ain't got time for this. It cost me more in my soul to stay. And I walk past them. I look at them. They look at me. And then I keep on straight lining to the bedroom. I get my sacks. I get my keyboard. I get all my clothes. I throw it in my little green bag that I got from Fork Union for laundry and stuff like that. I get the rest of my stuff out that middle closet. I just scooped it in, and I was out. And I never came back. I talked to her like one time after that because I left my passport, and she's like, "Hey, come get your passport." But I was done. So YouTube creators have definitely contributed to not only my life but also media, radio, and everything that's come with that. So gotta pay homage, and I'm grateful for all of these people and these situations and these scenarios that have led me up to this point where eventually we will get to 1 million subscribers and we will help benefit and help 1 million people and millions more. And also Make this our full-time job because that's the goal, and we're gonna get there. So that's the Donisms right there. All right, let's move into the first topic of today. Where did the phrase Virginia is for lovers originate? The slogan, Virginia is for lovers, was created more than 50 years ago. But how did this popular phrase come to be? According to the Virginia Tourism Corporation, the phrase Virginia is for lovers was adopted by the corporation in 1969. At the time, the Virginia Tourism Corporation was known as the Virginia State Travel Service. However, the phrase reportedly originated from a creative team headed by the Richmond advertising agency George Waltz of Martin and Waltz Incorporated, where a copywriter named Robin McLaughlin came up with an advertising concept that read, Virginia is for history lovers. According to the corporation, the concept would advertise beaches with Virginia is for beach lovers, VA Beach, or mountains with Virginia is for mountain lovers, Shenandoah Valley, Blue Ridge Mountains. However, company leaders thought the approach might be too limiting, and the agency dropped the modifiers to simply say Virginia is for lovers. I love it. The new slogan then debuted in a 1969 issue of Modern Bride. According to Virginia Tourism Corporation, the phrase was inducted into the Madison Avenue Advertising Walk of Fame in New York City by a popular vote on September 21st, 2009. The slogan was also included in the Advertising Icon Museum alongside fellow 2009 inductees such as the AOL Running Man, the Budweiser Clydesdales, and State Farm's Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm is there. According to the Virginia Tourism Corporation, the recognition came just as Forbes named Virginia is for Lovers as one of the top 10 tourism marketing campaigns of all time. That's how we do it in VA. 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 Let's go. There's my video right there. Let's see. We're gonna read a little bit of this. So, yes, like in the previous article, Modern Bride magazine featured a slogan: "VA is for lovers. Virginia is for lovers." The reason love really was all around in the late 1960s, Erich Siegel's love story was a #1 New York Times bestseller. Jacqueline Susan's novel, The Love Machine, was a reader favorite, and this all inspired the slogan. Let's watch the video. Fair use, fair use.
Colonial Williamsburg, Monticello, Mount Vernon, Jamestown. These names mean absolutely nothing to me, but they should to you. And they're all here in Virginia, including Yorktown, where we magnificently attired British surrendered to you.
Yorktown is 757. Williamsburg, like I said earlier, is also 757 as well. They're essentially their own things. Like, it's totally different out there. Colonial Williamsburg is more of a tourist town. Yorktown is just not that. Gloucester, I think it's closer to 757, but it has an 804 area code.
Shabbily dressed Americans. The art of tailoring has never fully recovered.
There you go. Now, that's not the original one. But that is the history on Virginia is for lovers slogan. 18 signs you're a true Virginian. VA, 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 VA. How VA are you? You know the phrase Virginia is for lovers means more than just romance. Whether it's for lovers of history and nature or good food, you know it covers it all. Really, if you're from VA, you know that VA is for haters. It's a lot of love in Virginia. I will say that. It is a lot of love in Virginia. That's why I go home so much because I don't live in VA anymore. But it's always going to be 757 until we die. Why? Because we global, baby. Yeah. But there's a lot of hate everywhere. It's all love anywhere you go. All right, you've got a strong opinion on whether VA is the South, which it's both. Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy, and then you have Nova, which is talking about Northern Virginia, which is Arlington, Fairfax County, Leesburg, Crystal City. That's all DC area. It is what it is. That's completely different. So like Tommy Richmond, he's from there. What's the country singer? The black country singer who's got that bar song out right now, Tipsy. He's from there. A lot of guys from Northern Virginia. But that's the North. Even though a lot of guys from New York come down to Virginia, really, Virginia, especially Richmond, it's a mixing pot. 757 too, because there's a lot of military people there. But Southern VA is Southern. You go there, you go to the right places, you're going to be like, this is Southern. But you go to Northern VA, then you're going to be like, yeah, it's different. You've taken at least one school field trip to Colonial Williamsburg, which we did. We went to Jamestown. Is Jamestown? I'm sure I might not be as VA as I thought. That's all good. You know that traffic on I-95 is just part of life. We didn't really go on I-95 too much. That was only when we were going north, like in the city going north. But I lived in the west, so I wasn't really doing that. I was more so on Broad Street or 64. About I-95 can't get crazy. Like a couple years ago, they had a snowstorm, and they were stuck on that thing for years. Years. Let's just say years. They were stuck on I-95 for years. You've attended a backyard barbecue that felt like a competition. I never really cared because I wasn't on the grill cooking. You've debated which is better, Eastern Shore crabs or Chesapeake Bay oysters. I'm a crab person, so I could care less. But how you know you're so 757 is chickadees or feather and fin. I'm going to just leave that right there because if you know, you know. Chickadees, way better. You've explained to someone that a ham biscuit is, or what a ham biscuit is. I don't really care. I'm not too. I'm not really a ham fan like that. You've been to Monticello, Mount Vernon, or both. I've never been to either one, so I guess it is what it is. You can navigate Skyline Drive like a local. I don't even know where Skyline Drive is. What is that? What is that? Like Virginia is so the majority of Virginia is country. Country and mountain, and if you don't know where you're going to get lost and get eaten by a bear or something of that sort. Like it's big cities in VA, but a lot of the cities in VA are sundown towns. And that's just the real thing about VA. What's the state bird of VA? Hold on, I'll give you a second. I'll ask it again. What's the state bird of VA? Don't cheat. Don't go to Google. Think. The cardinal. Thank you very much. You've enjoyed a glass of Virginia wine and bragged about how underrated it is. I've had some VA wine, but it's been a while. There are a lot of breweries in Virginia. So I'll take that. You've gotten stuck behind a tractor on a 2-lane road and taken it as a sign to slow down. Of course. You've been to the Virginia State Fair and eaten fried everything. Fried Oreos, I love fried Oreos. Those are good. You know that Nova and the rest of VA are basically two different states. I already said that. You've tailgated at a Hokies or Cavaliers game like it's a holiday. See, this is Central Virginia stuff right here. I'm from 804 757. This is the Hokies, Virginia Tech, that's Blacksburg. Cavaliers, that's UVA. That's Charlottesville. Now, I went to high school, or second half of my high school was in Fort Union, Virginia, which was 20 minutes outside of Charlottesville. So, still didn't go to a game, but whole different thing. It's not even close to what Virginia is. Virginia, in my humble opinion, is 804 757, and that's it. You know the beauty of a country drive in the Shenandoah Valley. Been there, and every time I was there, I was young, and I was ready for the drive to be over with. So I didn't appreciate it. I'd probably appreciate it now if I drove through there. You've been to a Civil War battlefield and acted like it was no big deal. Yeah, they're all through Richmond, and didn't care. I was just like, oh, somebody got shot with a musket here, and somebody probably got gouged with a bayonet over there. But I appreciate the ones who came before me. You've experienced the joy of Smithfield ham. I probably have. Smithfield is in Suffolk. Uh, I probably have. I don't think this is a good list, but it's good enough. All right, on to the next. Virginia goes all in on passenger rail. Now, this was interesting, at least to me. A new rail bridge into Washington, D.C. is viewed as crucial to expanding rail service in the state, which has seen record setting ridership in recent years. Virginia officials broke ground Tuesday on a project to bring a new rail bridge into Washington, D.C., a major milestone for a state that's been trying to connect all of its regions to passenger rail, even if it means buying or building the tracks itself. The $2.3 billion project would double the number of train tracks crossing the Potomac River from 2 to 4, alleviating a major choke point for freight and passenger rail traveling along the East Coast. The federal government agreed to put up $729 million toward the project, which will also include a new bridge for bicyclists and pedestrians to use. The federal money comes from the $1.2 trillion infrastructure law that Congress passed in 2021. Construction is expected to be complete by 2030. Today, freight and passenger rail that share the tracks that cross this bridge at a time when passenger ridership is on the rise and when capacity is virtually maxed out at peak hours are depending on a structure that is more than 100 years old. Transportation Security Pete Buttigieg said Tuesday. Rarely in the United States will you find a single piece of infrastructure on which so many people depend every single day. A more modern structure and updated capacity are going to be vital to sustain that level of traffic, and we're going to have a lot more coming, he added. How long is this? Let's see, where am I? All right. Virginia officials say the second span crossing the Potomac is the first time a state has purchased right of way from freight railroads to build their own rail infrastructure. In the past 2 years, in fact, Virginia has acquired nearly 500 miles of railroad right of way along major interstate highways. Last month, it purchased a rail line to suburban Manassas for commuter trains and secured access to a freight corridor in southwest Virginia, a key step in bringing regular passenger service to the New River Valley for the first time since 1979. Meanwhile, the state and other rail agencies have been busy with construction projects, particularly in the northern Virginia suburbs of Washington. They have been adding tracks, lengthening station platforms, replacing outdated bridges, and adding a flyover bridge that will let passenger trains travel over a freight rail route instead of having to cross it at grade level. But the key to adding capacity throughout the region is the new Potomac River crossing. The existing 119-year-old long bridge handles 80 freight, Amtrak, and commuter rail trains a day. Virginia officials says it is operating at 98% of capacity at peak times. It is also a crucial link between Virginia and Amtrak's busiest route, the electrified Northeast corridor between Washington and Boston. Doubling the number of tracks over the Potomac will allow for 13 round trips between DC and Richmond on Amtrak every day. Excuse me. It would also allow Virginia Railway Express, the commuter rail serving the area, to offer night and weekend service. Something many commuter railroads have been trying to add to adapt to post-pandemic ridership demands. Virginia, along with neighboring North Carolina, has been setting all-time ridership records on state-supported Amtrak routes in recent years. The number of passengers so far this year is ahead of last year's numbers, too. One lesson that we've seen here is that even amid a very strong federal push, it makes a huge difference if the state recognizes the importance of passenger rail infrastructure. Any state that's willing to make those investments and prioritize capacity for rail is going to see a real economic payoff to doing so. And of course, when they do that, it makes it easier for us to be a good partner on the federal side. We're almost there. Amtrak used a station 5 miles to the north of downtown Richmond after a hurricane flooded the historic station in 1972. The railroad began servicing the Main Street station again in 2003 and in 2021. The state backed new service to the downtown location, but those trains could become more frequent with the improvements coming in northern VA. We only have a couple of trains a day into downtown, but in a while we will have many more with this long bridge, Kane said. It's not just Main Street Station in Richmond. This is going to help us to get to Lynchburg, Roanoke, Christiansburg, and Bristol, Tennessee. It's going to help us get into North Carolina. U.S. Senator Mark Warner, another Democrat who, like Kane, previously served as Virginia governor, said rail ridership has consistently came in higher than initial projections when the state introduced service to places like Lynchburg, Roanoke, and Richmond. In fact, when the state first launched the Virginia Railway Express commuter rail in 1992, it was known as a white elephant. Nobody was going to ride it, Warner said. Today, we can't add enough capacity. Very, very interesting. Two did after incident in marine hydraulic, I forget what the I is, ship repair in Norfolk. Officials investigate. Fair use.
Of an investigation into the deaths of two shipyard workers in Norfolk. Since yesterday morning, police, along with state and federal safety officials, have been piecing together the chain of events that led to a tragedy at Marine Hydraulics International. 10 on Your Side continues our coverage. Karina Garcia is back on the scene. Karina, what have you learned about this company?
Yeah, Tom, we've been at it all day trying to figure out details and specifics as to what happened that Wednesday morning.
Time out. I never seen her around Norfolk. Where's she been? I like Karina. Karina. Come talk to me. Come talk to me, Karina.
Morning that claimed the lives of two workers at this Norfolk shipyard. But what we were able to uncover is that this shipyard.
I know a good breakfast place around Virginia Beach off of Independence Boulevard and Virginia Beach Boulevard that we could go to, Karina. I got you. And then after that, we can go get some drinks. We can go have some brunch. But I'd more so like to go out with you during the nighttime. Karina. Let's go.
Has received a series of 4 citations back in March of 2021 on a ship called the USS Normandy. All these reports can be found on OSHA. The first citation involved improperly rigged equipment where a failed knot caused a load to fall, fracturing an employee's foot. The second faulted the company for failing to assess worksite hazards, which also led to that injury. A third citation reveals workers were.
So that's already a problem right there. I work at a place that's similar to that, where when anything happens, there's always going to be a follow-up. Just like what they're talking about with OSHA going in there and assessing all the equipment and everything like that. Like, OSHA's getting ready to come in there. This happened a couple weeks ago, they're going to come in there. They're going to go through everything, and they're going to have their eye on that place. Because if I remember correctly, one of the guys was a contractor, and the other guy, I believe, actually was working there full time. And it was just a mess, man. It was a mess. I don't know what's going on with the video. It's not loading. But we'll go ahead and read it. And hopefully this doesn't play. Pause. All right. Police, state, and federal safety officials on Thursday continued to piece together the chain of events that led to the deaths of 2 shipyard workers at Marine Hydraulics International in Norfolk a day earlier. The initial response, emergency crews responded to MHI located at 1215 Warrenton Avenue near the Midtown Tunnel for a technical rescue. This is in Portsmouth. Officials said, this is definitely in Portsmouth. For a technical rescue, officials said dispatchers confirmed they received the first call at 7:46 a.m. about the incident. Goodness gracious. Norfolk police were called to the area to assist Norfolk Fire Rescue around 8:10. A man was pronounced dead at the scene, and another person was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. The other person later died, shipyard officials said Wednesday afternoon. We are deeply saddened to confirm the passing of 2 shipyard workers after an incident. While workers on the ship where the incident occurred were sent home for the day, the rest of the shipyard continued their normal operations. So the shipyard has received a series of 4 citations back in March 2021 on the U.S. Normandy, the first improperly rigged equipment in which a failed knot caused a load to fall, fracturing an employee's foot. The second citation faulted the company for failing to assess worksite hazards, which also led to that injury. A third citation revealed that workers were using an inadequate anchor point, exposing them to a 9-foot fall. Goodness gracious. You just got to make sure that you've tied off stuff and have taken the proper safety precautions and making sure people are safe around you, said one worker. In all cases, the company was required to provide proof of corrective actions. Now the company is at the center of a new investigation. I know that the feds were here and that they're doing an investigation, and that's it, another worker said. 10 on your side reached out to the OSHA and Norfolk Police as well as the State Department of Labor and Public Affairs, who said they cannot confirm any other details about the incident other than the loss of life. The state agency said it had 6 months to complete its investigation. 10 on your side also reached out to Titan, the parent company of MHI Ship Repair. They did not reply back to the request for comments. Some workers on site said there could have been an elevator malfunction that caused Wednesday's incident, but officials did not respond to requests for comment about that. Potentially, either the hydraulic system on the elevator, on the door itself, maybe a gateway, maybe there's a valve that gave loose, the second worker said, but there's procedures that should be followed to prevent all of that stuff. And I'm sure they're investigating whether or not it was followed. Just be careful. Always got to be careful. Always got to take care of the number one star player, which is you, at all times. And that's unfortunate. I know that things happen, but that just doesn't make any sense, man. So I hope that those guys had life insurance so their families could properly bury them. And hey, man, like I like working at my job. I like it, but I know that there's a chance that anything could happen. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm sitting in front of this camera, and I'll work until I can parlay this into full time. And that's the goal. That is the goal. That is the absolute goal. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this show up. We are going to wrap up the show. So today, we talked about a whole lot of things. All right, the word of today was Genesis. The Genesis, the origin of coming into being of something. Then after that, then we paid homage during the Donisms, the isms. We pay homage. I believe that it's important to pay homage to the people who helped you along your journey. Just like my mom's always told me, somebody give you something, you always write a note back to them. I wholeheartedly believe in that. I think that's the way to go about things. Everyone can sit in your front row, but those people sat in my front row, and I'm forever grateful, and most of them still do. After Donisms, then we talked about, and we digged into the history of the slogan. Yeah, we talked about Virginia's for Lovers slogan, where did it originate? 18 signs and a couple extras of how Virginian are you? How VA are you? VA. Then we talked about the rail, passenger rail, that Virginia has already broken ground and gone all in and on. And then we finished up talking about the two that perished at the Marine Hydraulic International Shipyard in Norfolk. Rest in peace. So with that being said, forever, I'm the Senator of Smooth and Rude, Don Tesla. Stay envious, be safe, take your time, stay dangerous, and travel light. Signal out.